World Wide Web, I'm Dr. Shado, beauty personality with the best hair, and welcome to week 2 of
The Summer of Jackie Chan!
And any dive into Jackie Chan's body of work would be incomplete without taking a look at some of the early films of a young Jackie Chan. And not the movies from the 60s where he was a child and people called him Yuan Lao, but rather the late 70s when people tended to call him Chen Yuang Lung, and he was old enough to drink and kick all the asses. Few of his films around that era are remembered around the world quite as much as Drunken Master. Now, not Legend of Drunken Master 2 from 1990s as a sequel reboot thing, I'm not quite sure yet, but Zui Quan, Drunken Master from 1978. Considered sort of a follow-up to Snake and the Eagle's Shado, despite the movies not really following each other and just having a lot of the same cast and similar themes, Drunken Master follows Jackie Chan, who ends up fucking his life up so bad his father puts him under the harshest martial arts training of his life! Which somehow involves him palling around with a homeless man and getting drunk off his ass. So, let's take a look at Drunken Master and see how well it goes down. Oh dear God! Sweet hell, I thought the THX logo was loud. After the audience goes deaf, we are introduced to Jim T. Sam, or Thunderleg, played by Zhongli Huang. He's an assassin!
$500 for the death of Charlie Wei.
And this message won't self-destruct in 10 seconds, so if you could be a doll and do that for us, that'd be great. Chon Kwok-Wai, or as he is known in the dub, Charlie, is played by Shun Yi Yuan. He's the master of the four-door fist style of Kung Fu, or as I like to call it, the sedan punch. Hearing that Thunderleg was hired to kill him, he makes an offer.
Someone's paid you to kill me? I'll give you twice as much to kill him.
You could. Only my honor comes first.
But he can't be bargained with. He can't be reasoned with. He has no pity or remorse, and he absolutely will not stop until he gets paid. Thus begins the first big fight. Not too important as it's set behind the opening credits, but the loud Foley work and lack of music does give us a taste of what to expect in this one. The title of this martial arts comedy set to the backdrop of cold-blooded murder really sets the mood. Here we see the rookie form of Jackie Chan training in martial arts under the watchful eye of Wong Ke-ying, or as he's known in the dub, Robert, played by Cao Lam, who then puts this lesson in the hands of Dean Shek, who is either playing Ko Choi or Professor Kai Sin, depending on which version you ask. Either way, he takes this great honor as a means to show the whole class how to abuse your power and feel superior to everyone else.
There isn't any power in your wrist, boy. How do you expect to make progress? Well...
And just like any authority figure wielding his immense power to the bane of the filthy peasants before him, no one gives a fuck. As such, the students only increase their antics with him around, going so far as to get caught! Only because one of them told on Jackie Chan, who plays the role of Wang Fei Huang, or as he's known in the dub, Freddie! After Freddie gets fingered, he explains to Professor Mole that the lessons are boring because the guy's kung fu simply isn't the best in the first place.
And that horse's stance is completely bow-legged. I bet on one sweep that
And I do wish I could find out who did the voice acting in this dub, because, Freddie, how much surfing did you do around ancient China? And again, that's kind of hard to find because there are actually 2 dubs of this. The 2005 remaster, this one, and the sillier 1979 dub. Yeah, this is the serious one. Either way, the movie's a comedy at heart, and therefore, when their disagreement turns into a brawl, it's a well-choreographed show of the teacher being taught lesson after lesson by our favorite beach bum surfs up martial arts master, Freddie. This transitions very suddenly into Freddie hanging out with friends doing what friends do in movies from 1978. Talk about girls.
Imagine what it'd be like to be kissed by that chick. Kissing her is for children. I could get that broad to hug me.
Ha! A hug? I tell you, I could get her to give me an awkward handshake. Thinking fast, Freddie procures a few things and pretends to have something in his eye.
Blow it out, please. Can't you help me? Huh? Can you? Huh? One more, huh?
Thanks. Now, if you could help me siphon some gas from down there, yeah. He then uses the old eel as a snake trick to scare her into a scandalous hug. But what's this? Her mother is nearby and finds this kind of behavior quite rude. His response is,
She was asking for it. Dumb bitch.
Not gonna get me to root for his character anytime soon. Rather, I'm far more interested in how the mother takes this opportunity to administer some discipline on Freddie here and whoop his motherfucking ass.
Okay, you're nothing but a skinny old woman, so I'll let you win.
Oh, that's it. He just let her kick his ass. I guess that's just another one of his kinks. Deceiving innocent maidens and letting older women have their way with him isn't Freddie's only pastimes, however. He actually has a little bit of a hero streak, as we see when Jerry, played by Tino Wong, has a goon beat the crap out of the director, Wu Pin Yuen, before purchasing a man's priceless jade heirloom for considerably less than the asking price, and when pressed to actually pay what it's worth...
That was all that I had in the world, sir. You've got to pay for it.
Expect payment from me? Well, take this.
Daddy! Daddy!
Assault, theft, destruction of property, more assault, and traumatizing a little boy, yes. I'd say this was a productive day of evil. But what's this? The neighborhood's favorite juvenile delinquent, Freddie Wong, has shown up. He demands Jerry pay the full price. I guess Fred just wants to keep that title of biggest douchebag in China. Problem is, Jerry doesn't comply, so they must fight.
Hey!
Which is, again, very well choreographed and slapstick as hell, but again, there's no music and the Foley work is questionable at best. It's kind of like watching Tom and Jerry, except instead of funny music and lots of sound effects, when Jerry crushes Tom with that anvil, all you hear is crunching bones and cries of agony. Jerry's not one for a fair fight, though, and uses a handy-dandy sword to get an unfair advantage over Freddy. Not to worry, nothing can cut the unbreakable strength of plot armor, and Freddy's kung fu is suddenly more than enough to avoid any damage. Instead, he easily gets the sword in his own hands, and uses the flat of the blade to not kill Jerry, but rather humiliate him. And also do a shitload of blunt damage to him, because fuck that guy! Only problem is when he tries to sneak back home after a day of delinquency and debauchery.
I say, Freddie, come and meet your aunt.
I wonder what's more terrifying to the guy, getting caught dishonoring your family or finding out you were sleazing on your cousin. Freddy's visiting aunt is played by none other than Linda Lin Ying, while his cousin is played by Jin Tang. His awkward behavior gets his father to wonder exactly what's bothering him, which Linda is quick to say is most likely the fact that they were mistreated by some punk earlier today. Obviously, Robert wants to see this miscreant brought to justice.
Would you recognize him?
Ooh, I'd never forget that face. Though the voice can be a little iffy from time to time. This little game of Guess Who ends quickly enough with Robert finding out it was Freddie all along. He attacked his aunt, hit on his own cousin, and worst of all, disgraced the Wong family. Also, surprise! Looks like Jerry was in fact Jerry Lee, son of Wan Hao Lee, a very powerful, influential man in the village, played by Jin Man Feng. Sure, Jerry was an asshole, but Wan Hao didn't hear about that, and besides, breaking every bone in the man's body was probably still a bit much, don't you think?
Please, Father, please!
Brother, you mustn't kill your own son.
Yes! I've got to kill this devil. He's a disgrace to the name of Wong.
Still, murder might be a bit too far. Ever heard of a timeout? Nope, as Auntie here convinces Robert that he doesn't have to kill his own son, because he can instead let Mr. Lee take care of killing Fred. With a few stipulations. Lee picks his fighter, and the guy gets 10 strokes with which to take Freddy down.
10 strokes won't be needed. I'm gonna do it in 3.
Maybe boast about how easily you can beat the guy after beating him. Jackie Chan, after all. The deal is 10 strikes, and Freddy can't fight back. However, he can dodge. When there's no music to your fights, you pay a lot of attention to the Foley work, and it seems that they accomplish the sound effect of a punch missing and hands flying around in the air by blowing into the microphone. A lot. Eventually, the 10 strikes are made against Freddy, and, well, he's still alive, so better luck next time. Next time being right now, as they refuse to stop fighting. But as the agreement is already over with, Freddy can fight back with all the might of the snake, the crane, and the ultimate kung fu attack, motherfucking chainsaw hands! Another day, another attempt on my life, deftly avoided with the power of kicking ass.
You fight quite well. I must give you credit. But I still kill you!
Well, goddamn, it's just impossible to get some father's approval. Freddy's aunt's got his back, though, in so much as making sure he's not dead anyway, as she gets Robert to instead try to encourage good behavior by torturous punishment, starting off with having him practice maintaining his horse stance for 5 hours.
Are your legs a bit shaky? They aching? You know, I feel real sorry for you. Chicken, chicken!
Okay, you had me until chicken. What the hell are you trying to do, break his concentration with simple confusion? Not to worry, Freddy's friend with fake freckles provides a bench to give him some much-needed rest. Only to have found out mere moments later, so not the best help, all things considered. Rather, Robert only intensifies the training regimen. And even this isn't the limit, as he has hired someone by the name of So High to come down and train Freddy further. Fred's got no idea what he's in for, but it seems his friend knew a guy who was subject to So High's rather extreme methodology.
He lost all his teeth, his hair torn out. Should have seen his busted nose. His own father didn't know him. That monster double, he's a real sadist.
Well, fuck, after his father's 5-hour horse stance training, and then pushing that up into hanging upside down for the night with no food or water, hope you survive, what in the hell is So High gonna do to him anyway? Teach him how to dive into a wood chipper? Figuring it's best not to find out, Freddy decides the best thing to do is run the fuck away. Problem with this plan, of course, is that he's one broke motherfucker, and working for food or money isn't something juvenile delinquents do, so instead, he finds an old man sat alone at a restaurant and decides to sit by him for some pleasant company during his meal.
He sure gets some food on him.
And between the insanely difficult training, the crazy martial arts masters all coming together to fight each other, and this scene in particular, it probably will surprise no one to find out the Drunken Master is said to have been quite the influence in the design of Dragon Ball. After tucking away enough food to satisfy Goku, Freddy tells the old man that it's been real, but he's gotta go, and don't worry, he'll pay for both of them on the way out. Obviously, his real plan was to tell him that the old man will pay while he can leave. Problem with this idea is, as it turns out, it was Han Chen Wang who plays the owner of the restaurant, and they don't take kindly to folks that refuse to pay for their meals. Thus, he must face Gorilla, played by Chon Kwok-Wai. Hold on, is that gonna get me demonetized? Well, if that doesn't, then this might. After trying to fight off Gorilla, Freddy is captured by the unbelievable strength of the waitstaff. Even worse, Wang instructs them that if he can't pay the bill, then beat the food out of him.
Now you want to look at my belly. I feel hungry again.
Oh, come on, you didn't vomit that much. That's just the MSG talking. Hungry or not, he'll keep on fighting, which eventually awakens a mysterious old man who also just so happened to be at that restaurant. Not too pleased with being disturbed, he joins in on the fight, beating the crap out of the waitstaff. And without music, the fight is having a harder time working as comedy, in my opinion. I mean, unless you just feel like people getting the shit kicked out of them is hilarious. Eventually, the two of them beat the crap out of absolutely everyone in there, and need to run away, escaping into the night. So the old man, played by Sui Tin Yuen, can have a drink and find out just why it is Freddy couldn't pay his tab. He hears that the boy ran away from home after his father hired a brutal taskmaster by the name of So High. Ah, no bother, just who is this old man anyway?
Everyone knows me as So High.
So high. Huh?
Also known as Beggar So, or in the original dub, Sam Seed. I love having like 20 names for each person to sift through to find out who in the hell plays who. Despite his rather shitty run of luck this whole time, Freddy is still surprised to find out that the old drunker is in fact the man his father hired to whip him into shape. However, if you missed that part earlier where So High beat the crap out of the busboys, he's happy to slap Freddy around for a while until his new pupil submits.
Ready to learn?
Help!
Answer!
My poor head.
Where are you?
I guess I haven't got much choice.
As when it comes to the hero's journey, you gotta admit, he put everything he had into refusing the call. Hell, he's still trying to get away, but of course, So High is always one step ahead of him, catching the crouching tiger by the toe and even having a spare door trap as a backup. However, Freddie's not done trying to escape, as the next day's torturous training of transferring buckets of water while balancing on the pots gives him an idea. He drops into one, but does not surface. So-Hai is concerned, so he investigates, only to be pulled into the pot himself. Freddie? When it comes to things that you're trying in order to avoid responsibility, murder is a bit far. Fortunately, this trick doesn't kill So-Hai. It only gives Freddie enough time to escape. Escape into the far corners of the forest, far, far away from anyone's prying eyes. In fact, the exact location you might consider hiding out in if you happen to be a secret assassin kung fu master rocking a killer 70s porn stash. Not that Freddie knows who he's dealing with, at least up until Thunderleg kicks the crap out of him, insulting his fighting style, nearly crushing his skull, then forcing him to crawl on the ground between his legs in humiliating defeat. Finally, he burns the man's pants, leaving him with nothing to do but run away in shame.
Well now, what's that supposed to be?
Yeah, we remember that. Happened like 2 minutes ago.
I can squash your skull like butter.
That too was slightly more recent.
Crawl between my legs. Crawl!
You literally just showed that scene. We really don't need the reminiscing quite so fast. And then I remember running down here and falling, and remembering how he insulted my kung fu. At least some good came out of this. Freddie has figured out that harsh training from So-Hai isn't nearly as bad as being insulted and humiliated before getting your pants set on fire. With that, he returns to So-Hai ashamed and ready to make amends. Takes a bit to convince the guy to look past that whole attempted murder earlier, but he eventually comes around.
Ready?
Either that or So-Hai figured that training him was the best revenge he could possibly get anyway. After enough wrist-thrashing, bucket-filling, inverted pull-ups, and walnut-smashing practice, they figure head into town and get some money for wine. So-Hai intends to do this with a classic game of test your sight, and things are going wonderfully for him. Up until they aren't, but what's this?
You think you're quick, huh? Well, listen, Baldy, my eyes are quicker. Lay off!
So much quicker, I had to make sure it wasn't under that cup before I showed everyone you cheated. So, plan B, game over, police are coming, everyone run! Except, of course, Freddie still wants that money. However, he faces...
Right the iron-headed bullet.
Oh, wow. That's horrible.
You got powers like Bonk, but your name is... Rat? Iron-headed bollock? What? Played by Kwai Shan. And yeah, that's his kung fu alright, being incredibly hard-headed. As such, he beats the crap out of Freddie head first. Having such a sturdy skull proves to be a difficult match for old Fred, until he learns his one weakness.
Here, boy.
Gotta admit, I didn't expect his considerably cutting cranium to also be his Achilles' heel. How the hell's Thunderleg gonna go out, stubbing his toe? So they beat Rat and get that money. So, after even more incredibly painful-looking training, So-Hai can send Freddie off to buy him more wine. Of course, instead of buying the wine like instructed, Freddie buys tons of food for himself, and a little wine, which he makes the most out of by filling the bottle the rest of the way with water. Also, wouldn't you know it, Rat's master is none other than the King of Bamboo, Shu Qing-ten, played by Xia Shu. Thing is, he doesn't know exactly who it was that beat the crap out of his pupil.
So-Hai rings a little bell?
So-Hai?
I and no other.
Hey, let's get out of here.
I'm sorry my idiot student got his head in the way of your hammer. It won't happen again. However, without his wine, the old man is shaking, and Rat says there's no way he's really So-Hai. He must be bluffing. Thus, the Bamboo King does battle with him. But without his wine, there's no way So-Hai can defeat him. Then, from just over the horizon, Freddie comes running in, ready to save the day.
It's water!
Ready, not able. This turn of events means they have to perform a tactical retreat, surviving long enough for Freddie to critique the situation. He thinks it's both of their fault. His for bringing watered-down wine when it's clear So-Hi has no strength unless he's properly sauced up, and So-Hi's fault because his shitty training has been nothing but torture for Freddie, and thus he wasn't skilled enough to beat the Bamboo King. Of course, this is actually because, surprising no one, Freddie's an idiot. The torturous training was to make sure his body was strong enough to learn the secret kung fu of So-Hi, the styles of the 8 drunk gods.
I think you're ready for it.
Is that right?
To study my style, you'll find it easier if you have a drink first.
Which is not actually true. Drunken boxing is best performed sober. Otherwise, you're far more likely to hurt yourself than your opponent. Who'da thunk it? So they spend the rest of the night getting good and wasted. Guess it's also easier to learn the style of the raging hangover, because lessons begin the next day. Learning the styles of the 8 drunken gods: Lu, the drunkard with internal strength; Li, the crippled drunk with one powerful leg; Fat Han, the drunk with the pot, holding the pot, big clay pot, and more.
The god Lam, the drunk with the sudden deadly waist attack.
Ah, the god who spends the night paying tribute to the altar of porcelain. There's also Chung, who does double kicks, which also has something to do with being drunk, apparently. So, the drunk with anger issues, or powerful throat lock. Sounds like an angry style to me. But there's also the drunken flute-playing god Han, with strong wrists. And last but not least, Miss Ho, a drunken goddess who works what she got.
Out! Come on, boy, this is serious.
There's nothing silly at all about getting completely hammered and dancing around in the middle of a field pretending of being a flirtatious woman. It's the only way to bring honor back to your family. Freddie, always the idiot, whines that Miss Ho is a woman, and thus the style is for women, so he shouldn't have to learn it. So-Hi argues it's important, but obviously Fred still isn't paying attention. No bother after a brief interlude to let us know there is drama between the Wong family and the Lees, as Wan Hao wants to dig up the historic village cemetery and turn it into a coal mine. We move back to Freddie and friends as he interrupts the Bamboo King's preparations for a family wedding.
Ah, good. I'll bake another dish.
What's that, sir?
Filleted boy on stick. Go get my stick.
Okay.
I got some good news, King Boo. He's already pretty marinated. But this means he can't be beaten so easily. So let's try and remind ourselves over and over during this fight that Freddie is the good guy, and therefore Bamboo King deserves to have his wedding preparations crashed, his face smashed into poop, his ass thoroughly kicked, and lest we forget those big old fucking jugs of wine he brought for the wedding straight up stolen. Our hero, ladies and gentlemen. However, when he brings the spoils of his antics back home, So-Hi is nowhere to be found.
1 year has passed, and the time has come for us to take our separate paths. I have taught you all the techniques and the magic of Kung Fu. Practice diligently.
Remember to drink every day, flail about, and, if possible, beat some people up, would you? With his training done, Freddie must return home. But what's this? Robert Wong is alerted that evidently Mr. Lee has gone over his head and is desecrating the gravesite as they speak. Thus, he heads out at once, and is promptly abandoned by his escort. As it turns out, he hasn't started the coal mine yet, but he has hired a certain someone to take the patriarch of the Wan family out of the picture. None other than the master of the porn stash style of Kung Fu, Thunderleg.
I've heard of that cold-blooded assassin that everyone fears. Thunderleg who'd sell his brother for money.
Yes, we know who he is. You don't need to build up his bad attitude. The movie opened with him murdering a motherfucker. While Robert is a master of martial arts in his own right, Thunderleg's ruthless attacks prove to be more than he can handle. However, he's fucked with the Wong family, and Freddie comes down to save the day.
I'm unlucky today. 2 will die for the price of 1.
Up yours.
If you think that's crazy, Thunderleg, you have no idea what you're in for the rest of
The Summer of Jackie Chan!
Before things can get started, though, who would just so happen to show up but So-Hi, proud of his pupil's progress and completely faithful that he'll be able to take on Thunderleg, with So-Hi's instruction throughout the fight, so it's kind of like a Pokemon battle, Hitmonlee versus Hitmonchan. He goes through the various styles of the Drunken Gods, standing toe-to-toe with Thunderleg, up until he has to resort to the drunken Miss Ho.
You
I forgot to do my practice.
What?
I didn't bother with it.
Oh.
Can't you teach me now?
It's like asking your professor to give you a quick refresher on the lesson during the finals. Naturally, Freddie starts getting his ass kicked, but Sohai has a brilliant idea. Combine the 7 gods he did practice and augment them with his own on-the-fly interpretation of Miss Ho. Therefore...
Hey! What did it do?
Miss Ho, the drunken goddess, flaunting her body and delivering some serious mixed messages. With the ultimate power of slapstick comedy in his hands, Freddie Wong managed the best Thunder League, saving his father and the honor of his family name. The end. He went from being a juvenile delinquent, making an ass out of himself and beating people up, to being a master of getting shit-faced, making an ass out of himself and beating people up. Now, whatever works for him. Anyway, that was Drunken Master. And it's very much a product of its time. It's aged pretty well. It's unmistakably a movie from the late 70s, what with a specific quality of film grain and the somewhat odd balance of music to action. Yes, there's plenty of higher budget movies from that era that I feel do quite a few of those things better, but it's kinda obvious Drunken Master was made on a bit tighter of a budget than your Alien or Star Wars or even Phantom of the Paradise. For what it is, a low-budget martial arts comedy produced in Asia, Drunken Master does about as well as can be expected. The sets are limited, but match the story perfectly. The story and characters are very simple, but developed enough that it is actually worth paying attention to, and the fighting is mostly entertaining. One has to keep in mind that for its time there weren't that many examples of amazingly choreographed martial arts sequences in well-known films, so that novelty alone likely carried it pretty well. For today's standards, though, I did feel like the combat tended to drag on. So much of this movie is fighting, which is the point, and is presented humorously enough, but the lack of music and questionable Foley work left me feeling quite a bit more bored than I imagined someone would have felt watching this back in the 70s. At the end of the day, Drunken Master is certainly a fun movie that I recommend to any fan of Jackie Chan to see at least once, but know what you're getting into. It's still early in the man's career, so he hasn't settled into what he'd be typecast as quite as much as you might be used to, and Foley work back then, well, it kinda blew. Still, Drunken Master manages to come in at a respectable 3 jugs of 100% proof alcohol out of 5. Even though 100% alcohol would be 200 proof, not 100% proof, and that's not even physically possible. You have 95.57 is sort of the physical maximum amount of pure alcohol you can have in a liquid, and that would be 191 proof. It doesn't matter anyway. Thank you all for watching. I've been Decker Shado, and remember, you can't just master your craft by getting incredibly drunk. Or can you?
He's like a shadow. He's like a shadow. He's like a shadow.
The internet personality with the best hair.
He's like a shadow. He's like a shadow. He's like a shadow.
The internet personality with the best hair.
I'll bake another dish.
What's that, sir?
Filleted boy on stick. Go get my stick.
Okay.